There's nothing I can do about the wig. I'm so sorry. I got it for like $12 and it shows. Hello my precious everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing another Meet My D&D character. This one I think is maybe long awaited because this is the character I probably talk about most if you know me or interact with me more. Today you will be meeting my favorite character of all time, VI Aluma. Technically his official name is SIX, but he stylized it as Roman numerals, so whatever you're feeling. I could honestly ramble about him forever because he is not only my favorite character of all time that I've made, but he also appeared in session 4 of our campaign. We have like 90 sessions, 5 to 6 hours each. There is a lot of content with 6 in it because he's one of the most major NPCs in the campaign. So for that reason, I actually am adding timestamps in the description so you can skip around to the parts that seem interesting to you, and I'll also have a section where I'm just putting a bunch of 6 quotes in the back because we record our sessions and I think it's like the best way to get to know him. As an overview, VI Aluma is a 20-something College of Whispers bard. He runs a criminal organization known as the Pact, and the Pact focuses on illegal recreational activities like gambling and like banned alcohols and certain substances that I won't go into details because of YouTube. His group is fun because it has a front of being a circus, but they actually really commit to it, so even like the illegal side of things is still circus themed. VI himself, as you can probably see, and I'll put a picture of him here, he's clown themed, and he's just a silly little guy. I honestly can see why he would be very dislikable though. He can be extremely annoying because he wants attention in all forms. He doesn't care if you love him, if you hate him, he just wants to live in your mind rent-free. And he honestly enjoys making people annoyed and uncomfortable, like on purpose. But the reason he gets away with it is because he loves to entertain, and he tends to be really funny if you're into his sort of over-the-top sarcastic humor. He also loves to play games, and he has a very high insight. So he can usually tell what people are thinking, but he also has really high deception, so he's really hard to read on the flip side. That can also kind of make him annoying to deal with, because it's like he has all the cards in his hands when you're talking to him. At least he seemed that way at first. It's not really an issue, at least I don't think so, because VI is really hard to genuinely upset. Everything is a joke and hilarious. You could insult him, you could probably even attack him, and he would probably find it funny. Also, I think it's important to know that he has 6 fingers on each hand. We'll get more into that later. So when the party first met VI, again, I think it was in like session 4 or 5, very early on in the campaign, it was because his group, the Pact, is based in the same city that Noir is one of the PCs in the campaign. Noir has a group called Nocturne, and Nocturne is based in the same city, Norfolk, that VI's group, the Pact, is based in. So they're not really enemies per se, but once in a while they have a bit of a rivalry going on and like scheduling conflicts and things like that. So their first meeting with him is actually because a member of Noir's group asked Noir if he could speak to VI, because VI had like a big event going on the same night that Nocturne had a big event going on, and they didn't want that to conflict. And they first met VI, and he was bright and eccentric, and he was sitting on a patchwork throne in a circus tent with 2 clown bodyguards next to him, who are also his best friends, Chaos and Queasy. Whenever they asked him anything, he'd be like, "Ooh, I'll tell you if you play a game with me." But of course he would cheat, and he has really high sleight of hand, so. And this particular time, he told them he would move the day of his event if they celebrated Chocolate Chicken Day with him, which is a holiday that no one else celebrates, but he's convinced it's real. It's based loosely off of Easter, but less like religious Jesus-y and more like, ooh, spring's here, bunnies, chocolate, etc. So in order to get him to move the day of his event, he forced them to go hunting for eggs in his tent full of mafia clowns. But amongst all that wild first meeting, they actually found some information in his tent via the sneaking around alluding to the fact that Six was looking for his father, Ace Aluma, who is the true leader of the pact, also known as the ringleader. So this is leading us to the tragic backstory section. If you want huge spoilers and Six's trauma dumping, let's go. This section hopefully won't be too triggering. It's just sad. A lot of neglect, especially from a father. There's mention of like murder too. And it's also really complicated, so I'll try and give like the Spark Notes version. If you don't understand, this is very lore heavy, so don't worry about it. But if you're curious, here's the gist of why he is the way that he is. The pact was actually founded by Six's grandparents. One of them was a human male known as VI Aluma, and his grandmother was known as White Mime. She was a fae who actually escaped from the Feywild and came to the material plane basically to cause chaos. She was like trickery incarnate. Not quite a god, but very powerful. Also, I should mention, Karsus eventually goes by the code name Gamble, so I'll be referring to him as Gamble going forward. Gamble and White Mime met after she played a trick on him, and she has really high charisma, so a lot of mortals tend to just be like drawn to her, and Gamble fell in love with her and low-key became obsessed with her, and the two of them decided to team up. So they made a pact. That's why the group is called the Pact. And she would always keep her magic in their lineage as long as he helped her basically cause as much chaos as possible. White Mime and Gamble had a son they named Ace. That's his real name, by the way. And they hoped that one day Ace could take over the pact. Ace was born with natural fae magic, lots of trickery, and Gamble was really fixated on making sure that Ace was just as powerful as his mother. So he raised him really strictly and really harshly and tried to do basically everything in his power to make Ace more powerful and also to make him as unpredictable as his mother. White Mime was eventually killed by a rival mafia group, but by that point Ace had grown up, he married a woman named Myra, and Gamble was starting to be old. No offense, Gamble. Gamble died shortly after Ace's first son was born, and he named his son King. King was born with White Mime's trickster powers. He was incredible at it. He was duplicating himself when he was like 3 years old. It was amazing. And 3 years later, Myra and Ace had another son named Jack. You can kind of see the theme we're going for here. They were hoping Jack would follow the lead of his father and brother, and they had really high hopes for him because he was born with naturally pink hair and an extra finger on each hand. But when the time came, like 3 to 4, that they were expecting Jack to start showing fae powers, nothing happened. And he was a huge disappointment to his group and especially to his dad. Ace spent a lot of time raising and training King on his magic while Myra started raising Jack. But Myra was also killed when Jack was 7 years old. And after that, Ace's disdain for Jack just grew even more because not only was he a disappointment, but now every time he looked at Jack, he was just reminded of his dead wife. So at this point, Ace took away Jack's name, knowing that he would never be as great as he or King was. And he decided to name him Six instead, because his sixth finger was the only thing that was magical about him. He was kept at arm's length for a few more years, mostly being raised by Leon, who is a Leonin. He's Ace's best friend. They have kind of a complicated relationship now, but he would spend his time raising Six, and he was like the second in command at the pack. And eventually, when Six was 10, Ace decided that he needed to really focus on King, so he fully left and took King, who was 13 at the time. They went somewhere. They did not tell Six where they went, and were basically like, hey, Leon, raise Six, look after the pack. I'll send some instructions if I need to, but one day I will be back, and so will King, and we'll take over the pact again. Even Leon couldn't stay with Six, because Ace asked Leon a few years later to come and train King. So Six's mom died, he was abandoned by his dad and brother, and then even his surrogate father had to leave him. During this time, Ace still sent like mental instructions to Six, and Six temporarily took over the pact while everyone else was training King and making him magnificent. And this was the only way that Six was able to communicate with them. But a few years after that, Ace found a way to stop allowing Six to reply because Six kept being like,
"Where are you? I need your help. Come back,"
etc. And Ace was like, ugh, I don't like that. So he eventually removed Six's ability to respond to his mental messages. So Six had no idea where his family was at. He was leading this group, and he basically just got instructions with no ability to say yes or no to them. So at this point, it's been quite a few years since he was kept apart from King, probably a little over a decade, and he really despises his father, obviously for neglecting him, but also for ruining his relationship with his brother. Six also kind of hates King because King got all the attention and everything he wanted, but he also knows deep in his soul that it's not really King's fault and it's Ace's fault for driving a wedge between them like that. And he knows that even though his father is letting him act like a placeholder leader of the pact, that one day King and Ace are going to come back and even take that away from him. So he has a very big inferiority complex, and he always needs attention because of all the neglect that he suffered. Even though he was born without magic, Six does have magic now. He became a bard so he could try and learn to use magic, but his father was not impressed with this because it was not fey magic. So he's like, in the beginning of the campaign, he was planning to find his father and more or less take him down to show his father that he is powerful, and in that way he was still kind of hoping his father would approve of him. Now we get into the next portion, Six and his wish. So Six has the ability to cast Wish one time by smashing a little topaz that is embedded in his forehead. He knew that his father wanted fey magic, so he was scouring for a way to get some fey magic, and he eventually, via the black market, got a mirror that let him speak to a powerful fae in the Feywild, and he made a deal with this fae. This fae was like, I will give you a wish, and in return you will give me some of your life force. This fae being was known as Misstep. He was based on an Oni, kind of like a monstrous giant, but he had another form that was like some hot fae guy, and he was like, hey, I eat people's souls, but whenever I find someone in person, I'm like consumed by bloodlust and I need to eat their whole soul. It's not really a consistent meal, so once a month, could I just feed on part of your soul? I won't kill you, but since you're not in person, I won't be overcome by that bloodlust and need to kill you. You know, I'll just take a little bit of your soul every month. Obviously, that sounds like a horrible deal, but Six was like, I just want my dad to love me. So he made the deal. I roll for it to see how bad it is, but he's usually left at 1 or 2 HP. He cannot be healed in any way by this. The only way to undo this would be with a wish, ironic, or to deal with Misstep in some other way. But once in a while, Misstep actually goes one step further and possesses Six for the week. That was not part of the deal, but he knew that Six would be too weak to fight him off when he's in that state, so he basically takes over Six's body and starts attacking people and investigating the area around him. And this was the actual turning point for Six because he could suffer a little bit on his own, but Misstep started attacking some of the members of his group, and he was like, I am not okay with that. So he hired the party to hunt down and kill Misstep to get him out of the deal. The only caveat to that was they had to kill Misstep really fast because Misstep is able to feed on Six's life, so if the battle went on too long, Misstep could actually consume Six's soul to heal himself, and he was like, that would not be ideal, so we gotta get him quickly. The party went on a long quest we lovingly refer to as 3 weeks on a boat because that took them to a secret island that had a portal to take them to the Feywild. It's all very complicated. It was a long quest, but by that point, the party had learned a lot about Six and his family, and after hearing what he went through, you can kind of see why he turned out the way that he did. He actually acts a lot like his father, despite not being really raised by him. And they learned that he was basically slowly dying just so his father would approve of him, even though he hates his father. And it was like, yikes. I think they started to empathize a lot with him, and they were together a lot. They got to spend more time and become friends with him, and he was struck by the kind of curse of misstep by that point, so they had to take care of him for a week. While he was extremely low HP, he could not fight them back, he could not be healed, and so it was a big leap of faith on his part. He didn't even have his bodyguards with him. He was basically just like, please save my life. So I think that trip bonded them a lot. They were able to succeed on their mission. Six still hasn't used his wish. I think he's afraid to use it because it gives him his cockiness, because he can be like, I can basically do anything because if I mess it up, I have this wish and I can undo it. So I don't think he's planning on ever using it, despite everything he went through to get it. Despite the fact that he could be like, I wish my dad would love me. I don't think he's doing that. The only other spicy bit is that in the Feywild, they actually ran into Six's brother, King. I may make a video about King down the line because I am planning on cosplaying him, but again, here's the quick version. King was sent to the Feywild by Ace and was essentially told that if he survived a year in the Feywild, he would be suitable to run the pact. And King was not doing well in the Feywild because Ace had sent him to live with a hag. The hag's goal was to more or less inflict King with madness, because King was very quiet and reserved, and Ace wanted him to be just like White Mime, who was trickery incarnate, and he was not turning out this way, so he left him in the care of the hag. So King was not doing well at all, and the party killed the hag and freed King. And Six was really conflicted because this was the first time they had seen each other in forever, and a huge part of himself was hoping that if I have to suffer, if I have to be abandoned, even though I'm jealous of him, I at least hope my brothers are doing well. And to see that they had been kept apart for so long and his brother was just suffering too, it was not great. And that leads us to our next part, Six in the Suit of Swords. Six and King have a really complicated relationship. Obviously, Six is King's #1 hater, the first one to shoot him down, the first one to make fun of him. But King has a very powerful ability that he can puppet people, basically. It allows him to essentially possess, for 1 month to a year, really powerful people, because the charisma save is like 25. Like, it is pretty heckin' high. And it's actually not even limited to people. At one point, King puppeted a kraken. That's the kind of power that we're talking about. And Six realized that this actually put King in a lot of danger. He knew that if powerful people figured out King could do this, they would take King and force him to do their bidding. And Six is actually extremely protective of King and will, like, not talk about King, about his existence, about where he is, what he does, to, like, anybody outside of the party, because he's so concerned about people hunting his brother down. After leaving the Feywild, King turned against Ace because he was basically like, Father, you sent me here with a possibility that I might die, because the goal was for me to survive, which implies that I could die from this, and you sent me here to basically completely change my personality. So King left his father, and he teamed up with Six, even though they still had a complicated relationship. And the two brothers were basically like, Ace, you know, we're all wagering people. Let's have a competition. You have the pact, and then the two of them created a temporary group called the Suit of Swords. And they were basically like, if we make more money than you do, in a year, we will absorb your group. And if you make more money than us, you absorb our group. The Suit of Swords did win, though honestly kind of scarcely. They absorbed the pact, and Ace fled to the Feywild. King eventually took the name Suit of Swords and started his own group, which basically focuses on helping people hide, people who don't want to be bothered, and King retook over the pact, who proceeded with their usual activities. Now the brothers, though they still have their problems, they're much closer, even though they work apart. Leon also chose to stay with Six instead of Ace, so even though he'd worked for Ace and was best friends with Ace for a very long time, he eventually did put his foot down and was like, you should not treat your sons this way. And so he came to kind of raise Six again, even though Six was an adult now, and Six views Leon as his real father. So we've come to the end portion, which is Six and the party now. They've been through a lot more shenanigans than this, but those were like the highlights. Six has come a long way with the group. I think they were always curious about him, but they were eventually able to understand the chaotic and outlandish way he was and why he was like that. They grew to become used to his humor, and he actually was capable of being serious and genuine a few times. They also turned him a little more good. You might have figured he's a pretty neutral character, and he's still that way, but now he'll like help the party out without necessarily asking for anything in return. He just likes being around them. He also started dating Noir, who's one of the PCs, so obviously he shows up a bunch, but it has been really fun watching him be in a relationship because Six has never been in a serious, genuine relationship before. Because even though he acts like he's the best, his self-esteem is really, really bad. He also doesn't really know how to accept affection because he was shown so little of it in his life, and also struggles with showing affection. And over the months of them dating, he's learned to accept hugs and give presents and take compliments. And children also make him uncomfortable, but Noir has a son, and so he's starting to try and go out and interact more with children so he can one day be a stepfather to Noir's son Grayson. And even though he won't admit it, he definitely considers the party some of his best friends. But I think the best way to round this off is just by leaving you with a bunch of quotes from Six. We record the sessions, so I didn't like go out of my way to record these lines for you. These were actual quotes from Six from weeks and months and even maybe a year or two ago, because this campaign has been really long. I will put the words on the screen. Six's dialogue will be in pink. The recordings are pretty low quality because we weren't using any sort of professional setup. We just recorded them so we can listen back to them. And I think this is a recording of a recording, so it might be like extra rough, but that's why I'll put the text on the screen.
I always love it when people throw things at me, but especially confetti. Can I get a bouquet?
No.
Please. It's kind of tacky if I don't get one.
You don't get one.
Kind of is.
You're not getting one.
Whenever you bring someone on stage to thank them, they always get something to hold, be it a trophy, but that's a little much. A bouquet, usually. It could be a small one.
No. You get to rent out my facility. That's what you
Yeah, but
get.
no one gets to see that. So I'm just standing on stage with bare arms. Nothing to hold.
He's such a little shit. I'm not getting you a bouquet.
You're the one who's gonna look cheap, not me.
You don't have to miss me too much.
Well, I wasn't.
Well, you could miss me a little.
Okay, I'll miss you just a little.
I miss you.
Okay. I'm taking this. Stilettos, fishnet tights, red nose, pantyhose. I have 6 cantrips. Ha! What's your favorite thing about me?
What kind of books do you read?
Why, do you want them?
Sure, I love to read.
Well, you're not getting them.
Why do you know so much, Sixty? That's yourself.
Why do you know so much? It's part reading.
Reading?
Yeah. 6 knows a lot of things.
How good are you at plugging very large holes? And your group abilities?
Alice, I would say that is one of the things I'm best at. Do you want me to burst your bubble? Let me burst.
Okay.
Do you have feelings for me or something? Yo! You keep taking me on dates. And I told King that, and he said that's not normal. Yeah, that's an illusion.
Ah, I see.
What could this be?
We come back into the room. What is a giant cube doing in here?
Oh, the mystery.
It was 6.
6, why would you do something like this?
6, you made a cube.
Come on. Why 6? It's called sewing chaos. Aren't you confused? So am I. That's what I'm here for. You're welcome.
So nothing can go through the cage, so nothing outside can go into it, right?
I do not believe so. I think it's just I got a wizard in my cage.
Now, it is your ship. However, you might be the one to save the day.
You'd be a hero.
And we're all thinking this.
6, I only had 1 copper piece.
Oh, broke.
I know.
Well, like, hey, bitch. See on your business.
Like, you missed him a lot.
I missed him a pretty moderate amount.
Pretty normal amount.
Pretty normal, what you would expect amount. The, honestly, line of him being gone to me missing him falls dead on the average. Whose death are we worried about? Mine?
Any of yours.
Oh. Well, that's just loving people.
I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching this video. I know it was probably unnecessarily long, but I love talking about my boy. I also have a playlist of my Meet My D&D characters, so if you want to meet any more of mine, you can click on those. And also, if you watched the quotes, what is your favorite 6 quote? Let me know in the comments. I will see you in the next video. Bye! Thank you for watching. Why do I sound like Elvis? I was like, ha ha ha. Is that Elvis or is that just a French man? Like a bad French man.